Well, hello, everyone. Sarah, Loren, and I actually were back in the green room having a very stimulating conversation about Ray Kurzweil's talk yesterday. And so we've all agreed to heck with all the mobile marketing talk. We're just going to roundtable that for a little bit for the next half an hour or so. So about the singularity. No, I'm kidding. We're actually, the topic of discussion is the keys to a successful mobile strategy. And so we're going to be talking with Sarah and Loren here about how do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you do things successfully? How is this space changing? Where does it need to change to? And how do you stay ahead of the curve? So without further ado, I'll allow them to introduce themselves. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Bidnick. I'm the head of marketing for a company called TodayTix. We are for last-minute theater tickets. We're now in about 7 cities in the US and the UK, and expanding to another 10 to 15 cities over the next year.
Hi, I'm Loren Husson, Director of Product and Affiliate Marketing. I oversee all of our paid marketing and affiliate partner marketing marketing opportunities.
Great. So what's going to be great about this talk is we're going to hear 2 very interesting and different perspectives. So we're going to see what it takes to stay ahead of the curve from the perspective of being a mobile primary company, a mobile first company, and also from the perspective of a company that's got ties to traditional media that's moving in, no pun intended, mobilizing right now and getting deeper and deeper into the mobile space. So it's going to be really interesting to walk through this. So to kick things off, this is going to be a very familiar question for those who are at the breakout panel I was moderating yesterday, but I think it's always important to establish and start here. What does it take to measure success? So for whatever you're trying to do, what does it mean to win? What's your scoreboard? When you're staying ahead of the curve, what does that actually mean? So when you're staying ahead of the curve, how are you actually measuring that? What is your scoreboard? What are you optimizing for?
Ultimately for me, it's ticket sales. And there's hundreds of little metrics that roll up into indicating that we're doing the right thing to get people, capture them wherever they might be, and drive them ultimately towards that sale. So it's about having a really efficient user acquisition strategy. It's about having a retention engagement program that's moving people towards that first purchase. We back all of our user acquisition stuff out to a cost per first purchase, acquiring a real customer. And then, what are we doing to really generate some awareness in the market? We have an interesting model in the sense that we launch in a brand new market where there's zero awareness about our product. And so in a way, we kind of start over. And so we've got this truly multi-local strategy where we have to kind of come in and build those users up and then start to move them through the funnel. So we've done a lot more user brand awareness as well over the past 6 months. So a good PR strategy and some above-the-line media that kind of helps make the user acquisition stuff more effective. So end of the day, backing out to a CPA and ultimately ticket sales and ROI on marketing spend.
Well, for us, we launched 2012 with our TV applications. And really back then, the authenticated product meant that it was tied to your TV provider, so you could log in from DirecTV using your account. And recently, in April, we launched our OTT product, and that kind of changed everything. Before, it was really just a cost per install that we were looking at because we couldn't monetize the product. It was already associated to your account. But now that we have this OTT product, we're really looking at cost per sub. That's kind of bottom line. That's what we look at. And then, other KPIs that we have really have to do with engagement, usage, what content are people engaging with, and our original series are really our differentiator in content. And so we want to make sure that what we're doing is promoting it effectively to drive that engagement.
Got it. So there's a lot of interesting things to unpack right there, and it's a great segue. So again, what's exciting and also frightening about mobile marketing specifically is how new and how fast it is. Again, we really are effectively only 8 years in at least the mobile app world as it is right now, and yet here we all are. And so in order to understand what it takes to be ahead of the curve, you've got to let's talk about the history, actually, of how we've gotten to where we are. So, Sarah, you've already mentioned, for example, some of the new things you're diving into. In the last 12, 18 months, what are the new things that are on your horizon? What are the new things that you've tried? How does that play into the strategy for what's now essential for how you do your day-to-day?
Yeah, we started focusing really on UA and really direct marketing approaches. And what we found is that when we come into a new market, the metrics for success backed out really badly. Because when there was zero awareness in a new city and we're coming in trying to sell theater tickets, which is kind of this niche product, we found that it just wasn't backing out. And so how do we kind of create that awareness, create that buzz, generate interest in our product before we're really measuring on like a cost per first purchase basis? And so we really invested more in PR and figuring out how we could get ourselves in front of customers. And another big thing that we're investing in now is content as well. I mean, we're app only. You can only transact with us on the app. So for a long time, the idea of really investing in web and connecting with people on the internet just didn't seem to back out because we had to ultimately capture them everywhere else and just drive them into a native app. But we're really starting to invest more in that and seeing kind of the ROI back out better because of course it's media you don't have to pay for. So we're doing a lot more on a content strategy over the next 6 to 8 months. And because we're multi-local and, theater's different city to city. So Broadway and off-Broadway is much different than when you're in Chicago and you're talking improv in Second City and I.O. So how do we really kind of cater that content strategy and that messaging in each city? So that's much more of a focus now for us than it was a year and a half ago when we were just like, really looking at like cost per, install and backing that out.
For us, we had a lot of changes. So I mentioned that in April we launched our OTT product. And along with that was an entire rebrand. So our previous TV products, we had 3 different applications. It was called Starz Play, Encore Play, and Movieplex Play. And when we rebranded, we took all 3 apps and put them into one app. And we also took the approach of combining the authenticated TV provider application idea and the OTT product into one application. So regardless of how you get Starz now, you can log in, right? And so with that whole rebrand, it was also the change of how we are marketing everything because we no longer have the other separate networks that we're marketing specifically. We have one application. And I think that was kind of a big deal for us because now as we used to look at cost per install, we're driving installs, but we know that some of those are already still tied to their TV provider, and then we're driving the installs of those that are trying to actually purchase OTT. So it's a kind of a different landscape for us from where we were before to where we are now.
Got it. And that opens up a really interesting vein and something that's increasingly, certainly something we've discussed a lot here at Postback already, which is the concept of omni-channel marketing. So for example, you mentioned basically providing sort of air support or soft cover for entering a new market where you're using traditional media, you're doing PR, you're doing kind of that sort of outreach that softens up in advance of trying to drive installs. And so let me just ask you up front, the phrase omni-channel or the term omni-channel, what does that actually mean to you? When you hear that, how do you relate that to what you're doing, if at all?
I think it's about eliminating all of the barriers that exist in trying to get someone to, see you somewhere, go to the app store, download an app, register for the app, enter your credit card information, and finally make a purchase. And when that was really the crux of my marketing strategy overall, it just, like I said, it just didn't back out. It was really hard to make it back out. So I think talking about how do we kind of spread ourselves around and have people bumping into us in different places, and how do we give incentives to actually do things to engage with us before you're actually going to buy tickets. So we did things like we created the first ever mobile lottery for theater shows. And, a lot of Broadway shows have done rush type programs where you show up early in the morning and stand outside and wait for tickets, lottery programs, but they'd never done it on a mobile device. And so we really pitched them hard on that for a while. We actually did Hamilton's first lottery at the Public Theater, which we really wanted that to kind of transition to Broadway, but they ended up growing their own for Broadway, so we unfortunately didn't get that one. But it was a way for us to then, we gave incentives for, get an extra entry in the lottery if you share via social. So suddenly we were able to say to the show, look, we're going to generate a lot of buzz about your show on Twitter and on Facebook and places where people are going and consuming media, and then people can tap through and register for this lottery without ever having to download our app. So it was really about getting people to interact with us in different places before we then eventually try to drive them then into the app and get them interested enough that they're wanting to then go through and buy those tickets.
For media omnichannel, we look at where we're launched right now, and we're launched on iOS devices, we're launched on Android devices, we're launched on Android TV, we're launched on Apple TV, we just launched on the Roku. So it's when I think of omnichannel, I think of everything mobile and above and beyond that. So it's gaining new users and new subscribers in the way that they want to engage in the content. And so if it's on their tablet or if it's on their TV, those are the different devices and different channels where we're looking to be to make sure that we're actually getting that message to the person with how they like to engage.
Got it. So, omnichannel running across devices, then it opens up the question, and what's become a very hot technology question is measuring across all those and using the technology to actually link those together. So, for example, one major driver right now, Apple's been pushing universal links in a very hard way, for example, to unify those experiences, and that's really just one example of a greater movement towards better omnichannel measurement. We're trying to smooth over those experiences. So when it comes from a technological perspective, in terms of how to unite those channels or how to measure across channels, how to measure that one thing you're doing in one channel is actually leading to better downloads downstream or actually uniting that, how, if at all, are you doing that? Or how is that challenge that you're dealing with right now?
Yeah, deep linking is definitely something that we do when we're advertising show products. So a lot of when we're doing user acquisition marketing and things that's very direct, the stuff that's led with show products converts a lot better than just us trying to get you really excited about a theater app, that you can download where you might want to go see theater someday. So deep linking is really important in those because we really want to create the best experience and just bring people exactly to where they want to go. We've also tried to be really creative about links that have kind of like an omnidirectional nature to them. So if you're on a desktop and you click on a lottery, where exactly do we want you to go? If you're on an iPad and you click on this lottery and you don't have the app, where exactly do we want you to go? And we've gotten really creative about kind of building that functionality into our linking so that we can send people to various different places to either consume information if that's really what they're trying to do because they've never heard of one of our lotteries and they want to check that out before they really engage more with us, or whether they have our app and we want to send them right in there to enter the lottery that day or to set an alert for a show that doesn't have tickets available yet. So it's really just about thinking about where they are, what kind of device they're on, and what their current intent is, and then sending them to the right place.
So the deep linking strategy for us, our main campaign is on iOS and Android. And currently, if you're able to click on one of our banners, it's going to link you right to the App Store to download the app. And we have a 7-day free trial for those that we're trying to get into our OTT side. And if you're on the authenticated side, you can already log in and use it. I think it's more important for us from an engagement standpoint as we're trying to use our own social to actually be able to deep link to specific content and have it go right into the app. Right now we have kind of a workaround, but the good thing is that the approach that we took from a mobile UI standpoint, it looks almost exactly like the app. So once you actually hit playback, that does take you right to the asset. And so right now as a workaround, I think universal links is going to be something that helps dramatically and will take out that secondary step. So it's a more seamless integration.
That's interesting. Universal links brings up this interesting dichotomy in how mobile marketing is approached or can be approached right now, where there's marketing the app and then there's marketing through the app. So for example, if you're marketing specific content, specific Starz content, versus just trying to get them to download the app, it's two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways. In the same way, instead of trying to get someone really excited about downloading a TodayTix app, they get them excited about a show through which they can go to TodayTix to actually purchase. It's two different sides of the same thing. So when it comes to dealing with that balance between how much you're just trying to drive user acquisition in terms of downloads versus ongoing engagement, trying to drive the conversion for users who say already have the app or have an offer where you're just trying, it doesn't really matter where they go, just so long as they hit that conversion point. How do you balance that right now? Is that a balance that you find changing over the last 12 months?
Yeah, it depends for us on the life cycle of a market. So, when we first launch a market, we're just trying to get as many users as we can. And we're qualifying those users by backing it out to a cost per first purchase. So we're getting the wrong users if they never make a sale, or if it's just costing way too much to eventually get everyone over that hump. For more established markets where we've got 6 or 7 months of data and we can see what users are interested in, what they're engaging with, what they're gravitating towards, that's where we really kind of focus our retention and our engagement efforts. I think that there's, at different points along the path, we're seeing either a fallout, at a certain place, or looking at what is actually stopping them from doing what we would love for them to do, which is see more theater. And we will have accomplished our goal if the people that see theater see more and the people that don't see theater think about seeing theater. Because by and large, whenever I ask someone that question, regardless of what city I'm in, there are two answers about why they don't see theater more often. Is number one, it's expensive and they feel like they have to plan ahead. And number two, they just don't really know what's playing. Seattle has an incredible theater community. I didn't really know that ever until we started doing research here and talking to theaters here about launching. So it's also then about kind of segmenting that audience and showing them things that they might like. Someone at a theater here in Seattle made me laugh the other day. They said, people talk about theater people and that they're just not a theater person, but you never hear someone say, well, I'm not really a film person, or I'm not really a cable TV person. We all are. We just like different genres of stuff. And so how do we segment really smart and deliver someone some content that they actually might be really interested in because we've seen them engage with other stuff, versus just theater full stop, because it's as crazy as just saying TV full stop.
In our world, it's the content that drives usage. And we see that as we have new shows and different shows, we see different segments that start to use the app or come in and come out of use. I mean, we're 4 months in, so it's early still, but the idea that we have is that a segment will come in based on a show, and once that show is over, what we want to do is show them that we have also library content, so older movies, older shows, different things that they could be interested in, and we want them to engage with that content and still see the value of everything that we have. And hopefully there will be smaller segments that will continue using the app based on the other shows that we have throughout the year.
Right, so segments, that's a really interesting concept all on its own, is the idea of who to reach out to or how you identify the people who are most likely to engage, the theater people per se, although ideally we all enjoy, stories, obviously, yeah. So the idea of a theater person is kind of a strange concept, although everyone subscribes to it. But when it comes to identifying, how do you actually finding those people who are within those segments who are likely to be the people most likely to engage, become your best users, how do you find them right now? What are your different avenues for saying, this is someone who's very likely to be someone who loves this app, or potentially someone who's very likely to get other people to use this app as well?
Lookalike audiences is a really easy way of doing it. We've had a lot of success with that. So if we just take, an audience in a given city and then create a lookalike audience when we're going to a new city, that's helpful. I think it's also about thinking about where the people who tend to demonstrate that they like theater hang out, right, and where they congregate. On an ROI basis, one of the best investments we ever made was a sponsorship of a podcast called the Theater People Podcast, which is one of the more popular theater podcasts. But it was just incredible how much their audience, our message resonated. And then we had, a month into the sponsorship, some users that had bought tickets 4 times on the app, which is just incredible. And so I think it's about thinking about where they might hang out in traditional media, right? Like not just that hardcore, UA-driven strategy, but then when we have the ability to segment, it's looking at who are our avids, who are the people who are, going 4 or 5 times a year, building lookalike audiences off of them, or when we have a completely new segment like improv audiences in Chicago, which is not something that New York or London really prepared us to market to. It's about working with some of our theater partners and trying to figure out how we can build audiences based on the knowledge that they have. So kind of starting from that square one and then just replicating when we find a group of people that seem to engage.
So our approach, we have a very robust research department, and they helped us with identifying segments as we started marketing that just have a higher propensity to engage with streaming services. And within those segments, then we went down and we created lookalike models based on those segments, and that was kind of where we started. And as the campaign kind of goes on, we continually modify the creative. We understand what's performing, what's not. Do we need to pause a segment based on the content that we currently have? Do we need to put more behind this other segment that seems to be performing well based on new creative that we introduced? So it's something that we continually change and modify and make sure that we're just running the most efficient campaign that we can.
And just one more note on that, I think one of the things that we found interesting when we were doing just that, trying to look at users and segment which ones are giving indicators that they're going to be really engaged, was people in the onboarding process. So really measuring, who are those users that immediately register, or who are those users that immediately go in and look at 3 shows and then back out? And is that an actual indicator that those are going to be the hardcores or the avids, even if they've never made their first purchase? Are there indicators and things that we can see right at the beginning of their engagement with us that help, help us figure out that they're going to be a certain type of customer, which is really interesting and not something that we did until the past 6 months or so.
So you brought up a magic word there, onboarding, which is a really interesting concept. So in terms of maximizing that onboarding flow, to try to drive as many people in as possible, what are some of the techniques that are available? What have you tried? How much is that an essential part of successfully getting people to use the app at all?
It's kind of a combination of an email strategy, a push strategy, and getting all of the best features that we have in front of them. We were really nervous about pushing people in the beginning, and of course the idea of losing the ability to push someone, having them turn off push because they're irritated by a push, was enough for us to kind of shy away from that. But what we've been finding is actually that especially within the first couple of days, as long as we're pushing about things like, hey, did you know we have a referral program? You could be making good money on passing the word around to your friends and credit towards theater tickets. Do you know about our lottery and rushes? That's something new. And giving them kind of interesting content in both an email and push strategy at targeted times. So we might send an email, the day after they install the app with some additional stuff to try to encourage them to register if they haven't. Or if they've already registered for the app, then, what do we send them next there? So we're always tweaking it. My head of retention is really looking at doing a lot of testing, especially in our bigger, more established markets with holdout groups to really see, surprisingly sometimes, sending an email versus not sending an email has 0 impact, which is really interesting. And so it's really just kind of testing and iterating there all the time.
I mean, onboarding for us is really just gaining a new sub, right? It's, I think it's, I thought it was funny too. I think it's mainly, we have a heavy DR campaign, and, we're kind of always on right now, but we also see that as soon as we get other more awareness-driven media in the market, even traditional media, outside of our heavy DR mobile-focused campaign, that everything rises, everything performs better. So it's that idea of just creating that full funnel all the way through. And typically, it's going to be tied to our new shows, but we just see that when we have our heavy DR campaign, then that's when we're really working and optimizing outside of our big campaign windows. And the big campaign windows, when they hit, everything performs so much better, exponentially better.
Got it. So with our last minute here, I'm going to ask the ultimate unfair question, which is I'm going to ask you to see into the future. So whipping out your crystal balls, when it comes to the next 12, 24 months, what's next? What's on the horizon? What's something new that you want to try? What's something that you think is going to change the entire ecosystem?
I think one of the things that being a niche product, right? Something that you might use 5 times a year if we're lucky. For us, it's what happens, 3 or 4 years from now. And we were talking backstage. I mean, I don't think that any of us are going to have like 800 apps on our phone in a couple of years. So what are the futures of apps? What will there kind of be a travel and entertainment category which aggregates? How do we get better about interacting and transacting within other apps? I know that's kind of where we're moving with some of our partners is, hey, how can we kind of share and make our product available within something that might be more like a hotel experience or a concierge experience? So we're really trying to look beyond being an app and to the future of apps and also the future of ultimately a theater company. How do we really get people excited about this age-old art form that in a world of smaller and smaller screens is something really unique and something different, something that opened up at this conference, which was really cool. And I had no idea it was going to happen. So I think, for us, it's how do we maintain an edge in that world? And I think that that's where brand is becoming more and more important. And if you look at a lot of ticketing companies or ticketing apps, there's not a huge focus on brand. It's more about the functionalities, the always leading with the product. And so we've talked about, if take product functionality out of it, what really makes TodayTix interesting to people and resonate with people? And so spending more time in that and how we'll weather the complete unknown technological evolution of like the way that we're actually getting to people.
For us, I think we have all of the tracking in place that's needed currently for iOS and Android. But as I mentioned earlier, we also have applications on connected TV devices, smart TVs, gaming consoles, and really it's going to be able to get all of the tracking in all of those places based on all of the applications that we have, and really allow us to make informed decisions on how we continue our campaign, how we move our spend, what's performing well, where are people engaging the highest, and I'd like to see it all in the multiverse. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's give Sarah and Loren a huge hand. Thank you so much. Terrific panel, and thank you all.